Today, I want to talk about a beautiful story. You will enjoy listening to me for about 15 20 minutes. So let's get going. I want you to have an eye onto this slide. So, the title has been illustrated, very beautifully illustrated. Aside here, you can see the picture of the author. Kate Chopin, her original name was Catherine of Fidelity, and she was born in 1851 and passed away in 1904. So here is a short comment about the story. The main idea of this story has been given here. So A Respectable Woman has been structured around the character of Mrs. Baroda and her inner conflict as she finds herself attracted to her husband's friend. So now I think you have got the context. Whether we can consider a woman who feels attracted towards any other man other than her husband a respectable woman or not. This is the main idea that we got to know in this story. So can we take a woman having an extramarital affair as a respectable woman or not? So going through this story, as we talk about Mrs. Baroda, who feels kind of attraction towards her husband's friend. So whether we can consider her as a respectable woman or not. So please let's discuss over this thing. The characters in the story. Mrs. Baroda, she is the central character, and Mr. Gaston Baroda is another character, and he is husband to Mrs. Baroda, and Gouvernel is Gaston's college friend. So altogether there are three characters in the story. Moving ahead. Yeah, before we begin the plot of the story, like here I want to illustrate the themes. So what does this story say to us? So the very first thing that we got to know in this story is about respectability. So social and moral code of conduct. How the male-dominated society or the patriarchal society frames women, or it used to frame women in the past, about their freedom, about their duty, their responsibility, about fidelity, how devoted they had to be, how honest they had to be to their family and their spouses. Like all these things have been beautifully illustrated in the story. So of course, when we talk about freedom, personal freedom, in the past, like men used to enjoy quite a lot of freedom than their female counterparts. So Kate Chopin wrote this essay long ago in American context, and it's really relevant even today, because in our society, in our families today, women are not given or not willingly given as much freedom as men enjoy. Therefore, so this story is about respectability of women and whether women can enjoy as much freedom as their male counterparts do or not. So it's a very big question that's been raised by the story writer in this story. And the thing is, freedom of woman is the same thing connected to the earlier idea. So can a woman enjoy her true life or not? Sometimes. So her personal feelings and emotions might be more important than her family responsibilities. So can she easily escape the family responsibilities and prioritize her own personal freedom and emotion or not? It's a very big question. So we will look at Mrs. Baroda and the way she acts out in the story. So similarly, another point is fidelity. So both men and women are expected to be honest to each other. So if we think of true and lasting relationship between a man and woman, both of them have to maintain fidelity. If they go cheating, there cannot be a healthy marital life. So this is another thematic trait. So, likewise, conflict between morality, responsibility, and happiness. When we talk about happiness, sometimes we have to overcome our responsibility. Sometimes we have to overcome our morality or maybe moral code of conduct has to be ignored. So, these like ideas we can discuss going through the plot of this story. Okay, let's go ahead. Yeah, without wasting time, I want to take you to the plot of the story. So I've already introduced the characters, Mrs. Baroda, Mr. Gaston Baroda, and Gouvernel. Okay, these three characters. So I want you to have an eye onto the slide the time I go speaking. Okay. So the story goes like this: Mrs. Baroda is a married woman, to Gaston Baroda. She comes to know that her husband's friend Gouvernel is spending some time with them on their plantation. They have a big farmhouse, and her husband's friend Gouvernel is coming to stay with them for a few weeks. Right? When she hears this thing, she is displeased, she is not happy, she is disappointed because they had been doing much entertaining and she had hoped for a break now. She has never met the man, and so she goes on figuring out the man. She thinks that Gouvernel may be a very tall man, a lanky person, wearing glasses, putting his hands all the time in his hand pockets, a very cynical person, argumentative. Okay, that like person he must be. So she goes on making this kind of prediction. But when Gouvernel arrives, so he turns up at her farmhouse, so he's not like that. Okay, he's neither too tall nor he wears glasses, and he doesn't have his hands all the time in his pants pocket either. So whatever he is, so she likes him very much and she feels an increasing form of attraction toward him. So she finds he has a mystery about him and that she can't explain why she feels so attracted towards this man. Okay? Alright, within short time, Mrs. Baroda finds that Gouvernel has some kind of solitary habits because, he stands on formality and, because he has to maintain this moral code of conduct. So he remains reserved most of the time. On the other hand, Mrs. Baroda wants him to flirt with her. So because while sitting close, like let's say in the kitchen or maybe in the living room, like she wants him to admire her beauty, her youth, right? But Gouvernel stands on formality all the time. He is fully disciplined. And this puzzles Mrs. Baroda because Gouvernel is a young man and so a beautiful young lady is sitting beside him and is still not paying attention to her beauty and youth. And so Mrs. Baroda doesn't quite like this thing. She wonders how her husband, who is an extroverted person because he fills his house with cheers and jokes, her husband enjoys going to fishing and hunting. And it's like how her husband has been a friend to this introverted person like Gouvernel. Okay? But as time passes by, time and again, like they want to take him to hunting and fishing, but Gouvernel says no, he doesn't feel like going out. And that's why once Mrs. Baroda takes him to a shared walk to the mill, there is a rice mill, and so that the man gets some time to talk to her. But it is useless. Again, she takes him to a swampy part of their field, and her feet are deep in the mud, and she wants him to give her his hand, but Gouvernel maintains some distance, and he shows no interest in her. So I think what goes wrong here. Like actually, Mrs. Baroda's expectation do not get fulfilled. Therefore, she tells her husband that she will be better when the man is gone. So she asks her husband. She asks him when his friend is going home. Okay. So he's unlike the other visitors, and this perplexes her. So she finds him rather boring. And when she narrates this thing to her husband, Gaston Baroda, the man cannot believe that because he thinks that his friend is a very nice man, like he's a good fellow, he's a very nice friend. So he wonders why his wife has developed this kind of dislike towards his friend. Okay, but then Mrs. Baroda decides that she will leave her home and until the man, Gouvernel, goes away. Okay, so yeah, she decides to go out of the kitchen now. So into the front yard, she feels like sitting under the tree in the front yard. There is a bench, and she goes reflecting on why Gouvernel makes her feel so strange. And she also questions herself because of a third person at her home. Now she has ultimately come to a point of leaving her home. She's going away from her husband. So why this has happened in her life is a matter of wonder for her, and she feels like finding this question by herself. Okay? But while she's sitting there under the tree in the bench, like Gouvernel comes there, and so he offers her a soul her husband has given him to give her. And so as he comes closer, like, okay, Mrs. Baroda feels completely different. So Gouvernel sits on the same bench, and then there is silence. After a short while, Gouvernel goes talking, looking in the air, and he goes on talking freely and frankly at this time. He talks about his young life, college life, the way he used to enjoy time with the husband, Gaston Baroda. So he begins to talk, but she doesn't listen to his words. Rather, she is preoccupied by her thoughts. She feels that her body is increasingly drawn to him. She almost extends her hands, and she feels like taking Gouvernel's face in her hands, and she feels like kissing him. So she wants to press close her hands and against the man's face. But here and then she stops herself, and before she touches him, she gets up, and because at this point she realizes that she's a respectable woman, and she cannot be having this kind of amorous desires towards any person other than her husband. So to this feeling, so she begins to draw herself away from him, and then so she goes away without saying a word to Gouvernel. She gets back to her home, right? And then that night, so a kind of thought comes to Mrs. Baroda's mind. Okay, she is in a kind of, let's say, dilemma whether to tell her husband about this kind of feelings she has towards his friend. Okay, so she wonders what would happen if she overtly, explicitly mentions this feeling to her husband, like why she's been feeling increasingly attracted towards Gouvernel. But then a second thought comes to her mind. So, and I think she's wiser, like because she thinks that there are certain battles of life that are to be fought alone by an individual. So she doesn't feel like sharing this feeling with her husband. Okay? There are some secret battles that a person has to fight by herself or himself. So she concludes she doesn't tell her husband anything. And the next morning, so before the two other men have got up, she has left her home, and she has gone to the town to stay with her Aunt Jared. And she doesn't come back to her home until Gouvernel is gone away from her home. Okay, and anytime her husband mentions the name of his friend, she protests his return, and she doesn't like to listen his name. Okay, so this is how, like, let's say winter comes and another spring comes, but within a year, so she supports his visit to her husband's surprise. So one day, like, she proposes to welcome Gouvernel to their household one more time. Okay, and her husband Gaston Baroda cannot believe in what way his wife has made a U-turn of her heart and mind. So he feels glad nevertheless, because he likes the way his wife had changed her opinion. So he wonders that she has changed her dislike. She has given up her dislike for his friend, and it's a very happy thing for him. And he's happy that she has overcome her hatred for Gouvernel. Okay, But then to this, Mrs. Baroda goes on mentioning that she has overcome everything and now she requests her husband to invite his friend over to their farmhouse, and she promises to be very kind to the man this time. Okay, with this, the story comes to an end. All right. So I believe you have understood the plot of this story, and here are a few questions to answer. But you should not find yourself or bind yourself within the moral and social code of conduct. You have to dare to break these like limitations and barriers. Only then you can live your true self. So the story presents Mrs. Baroda, right, having this kind of, let's say, okay, mindset. At the end, when she says, yeah, I will be very nice to him, and there could be double meaning, right? If Gouvernel comes to her home one more time, it means that she is very bold to breach the barriers made by her society, and she's going to confess her love to the man, and she's going to see what comes next. Okay, so one meaning is this: probably Mrs. Baroda, by saying that she has overcome everything, she wants to say that even if Gouvernel comes and sits by her, so she's not going to have any kind of attraction, that physical attraction towards him. So she can remain simply a true friend, and she won't be disturbed, and that like idea is been given. Nevertheless, so there is a very big question about the respectability of women in these like situations. So definitely a woman is also a free humankind, and it is very natural, biological for a woman to feel attracted towards a man. Okay, we got to take it very easily. The story also imparts this idea. If a woman has to maintain her fidelity, so does a man. Okay, because a man and woman, they are equal, and they are equally responsible for a happy conjugal life. So they should remain honest to each other. It's not that only a woman has to maintain fidelity. So of course, conflict between morality and responsibility that I discussed earlier. So yeah, sometimes we find ourselves in a conflicting situation. We cannot solve this puzzle, kind of, let's say, rivalry between morality and freedom in our life. So sometimes we think, yeah, we are free human being, and we feel like breaching certain moral code of conduct for our happiness. Or sometimes we have to give up our happiness and try to present ourselves as a moral and dignified person. So the story also provides platform to raise this kind of question. So I believe, I clarified the thematic aspects of this story. Please have an eye on to the textual questions given here and try to answer them. All the best. Thank you very much for listening to me.